Good morning everyone. Today we're going to check out the Specialized Levo SL. This is the comp model, and what makes this different, if you know my channel, I ride a Levo Expert, but this thing is about 3 kilos lighter. This apparently weighs in about 18 kilos, and although that's not light for a normal bike, for an e-bike that feels pretty light. It's probably about 6 kgs lighter than a Kenevo. So how do they get this thing to be so light? It's got a smaller battery for one. It's got a 350 watt hour battery in it, and it's got a smaller motor as well. It's also got other things like lighter forks as well, with a set of 34s rather than a set of 36s. All right, well, let's have a closer look at this bike, shall we? Okay, so let's have a quick look at what this bike comes with. As I mentioned, it comes with a set of Fox 34 forks, so they're a little bit lighter than the 36s, but you still got 150 mils of travel. And out back, you've also got a Fox Float rear shock, also 150 mil of travel. This is a 29er, size large, which is my size, which is good. We have a Eagle SRAM NX drivetrain, and match that with SRAM guide brakes, and also has a Manic seat post. So as you say, this is the comp model, but still not a bad spec. I guess the big thing about this bike, as I say, it does have a smaller battery and a smaller motor, and let's take it for a ride and just see whether the light bike makes up for that or whether we miss the power. Alright, so managed to secure myself a Specialized Levo Turbo SL for a couple of days riding here. Now, we took it to Woodhill Bike Park here in Auckland, and it's certainly been very wet. Generally, Woodhill is a very good draining bike park, so good to ride in the winter, but so much rain, there is some clay, so it's a good test for the bike really on the whole. Now, if you watch my channel, you know that I typically ride the Turbo Levo Expert. That's the carbon version, and this is not designed to be a review of this bike, but I certainly will be making some comparisons. I guess at the end, making the decision, would I swap my normal Levo for the Turbo Levo SL? Anyway, I guess we'll have to just go and find out. Alright, now if you think, Lance, you're riding over carpet, you would be right. This is one of the features of Woodhill Bike Park. They often get soft sandy bits in the summer, so they put down carpet. So it's a little bit different to normal, but anyway, that's just one of the unique things about riding here at Woodhill. Okay, so if we just be quiet for a little bit, you can hear that motor. It's pretty whiny, I think. It's a lot smaller motor on the SL. And yeah, it does have much more of a sort of high-pitched noise to it. Alright, we're doing a bit of downhill. It's pretty wet and sloppy. If I get mud on the lens, just let me know and I'll clear that away for you. The bike certainly was pretty nimble downhill. As I say, it's only about 18 kgs, and certainly was easier to pop around, get a little bit airborne, so yeah, it was pretty good. Now, it comes with a set of Fox 34s, Fox Float, I think, on the rear shock, and it's some mud. Did someone ask me to clear that away? Alright, I'll just do that in a second there for you. Alright, come on, there we go. Alright, so suspension, although a little bit more lightweight than I'm used to, 150 mils of travel, I thought the bike handled really nicely actually. Brakes, guide brakes also worked very effectively, not the top of the line, but they seemed to work nicely. And the bike was nice and quiet. Some of the reviews I've done recently, there all seem to be an annoying creak or a groan on the bike, which tends to drive you a little bit nuts. But this was certainly a really nice, quiet, smooth riding bike really. So yeah, that was a good thing. Okay, stitch up. As it's described, 1 kilometre straight up, so I thought a good test of the climbing ability of the Levo SL. Now, in terms of geometry and traction and climbing, it was absolutely fine. In terms of power, to be honest, it sucked a little bit. It definitely noticeably less power than the normal Levo. You definitely had to drop it down into much smaller gears to get up that hill, and after 2 days of riding this thing, I could certainly feel it in my legs that I'd actually done more work than I would normally. Now, some people will say that's a good thing. It's kind of an e-bike where you get more exercise, and some people are going to like that, and other people, I guess, not so much. In terms of techie stuff. You can see a big maze of slippery wet roots here. The bike handles very well. You do need to make sure you're in the correct gear, as you don't have the power to compensate if you're in the wrong gear. But in terms of, it's nice, light and agile to get through this stuff. As you can see, it was a pretty wet, sort of skiddy, sloppy day. Alright, so we're into the downhill. Now, one thing I was really worried about with this bike is that, it's only got 320 watt-hour battery. Now, if I was to take my bike out, normally I would always use that amount, if not more, and sometimes I'll use pretty much all the 700 that I have. So I was thinking, this bike, I'm going to run out of power, or at the very least I'm going to have to conserve it, eco it round the park to try and get myself back to the car park. But on neither day did this happen, and on neither day did I actually try and conserve anything. In fact, most of the time I ended up riding it in the turbo setting, and so I think this whole small battery, small motor idea actually does work. I believe you can get a 150 watt-hour sort of top-up battery that you can put in the bottle cage if you wanted to go further. So if the small batteries idea puts you off, I don't think I would. I think it actually would work for me. But you'd have to obviously likewise want to go with the whole small motor idea, which I'm not quite so keen on that, I must admit. Now, I did end up having a bit of a play here in the end with a fellow YouTuber, a friend of mine, and we just had a session of sort of a little bit of a jump line down here at the bottom of Woodhill, and this thing was nice and poppy. So you did notice that, yeah, the weight meant that you could get it off the ground that little bit easier than the normal Levo. Saying that, I don't think weight is a huge issue with e-bikes. Everyone who doesn't have one makes a huge fuss over the weight, but anyone who owns one realise that it's really not such a big issue. If you can get enough speed up, weight pretty much disappears, and so a bit of momentum goes a long way. I guess the question therefore is, am I going to swap my Levo for the Levo SL, the lighter version, the, I guess, more playful, nimble bike? And the answer is, I'm afraid to say, is no. I just don't like the lack of power. Now, I think if you have never had an e-bike before, and you go ride this thing, you'll think it's absolutely brilliant. When I first rode an e-bike, you put it on eco, you think this is amazing, but you get used to more power and it's hard to go backwards, and certainly riding this thing, it felt exactly that, you were going backwards. So if you said to me I could buy an e-bike with twice as much power, I don't think you can have too much power on an e-bike, but that's just the way my brain works. This will definitely suit some people. I've met people who ride the same bike as mine who say they never ride it in anything other than eco. It just gives them a little bit of assistance to keep up with their friends and family. And if that's you, then the Levo SL is definitely your bike, because you're not using all the power, and why not have a lighter bike? So this bike will definitely suit some people, but in my case, yeah, it's not for me. I'm not swapping anytime soon. Okay, so what did I think of the Specialized Levo SL? I quite enjoyed riding the bike. It's definitely light and playful. I guess the big question you always ask is, would I buy it? And I think in this case, probably no. I think I missed the power of the normal Levo, the bigger motor. Surprisingly enough, the battery still had quite a lot of power left. I think the smaller motor doesn't use it as much. So will definitely suit some people, as I say, not for me, but I think for a lot of people who want a really light e-bike, this is probably the one for them. If you like the video and you haven't subscribed, click down the logo down here, and we'll see you on the next one.